dadkan kuugu jecelahay.
Hello and welcome to the news in English live from Mogadishu with me. I am Omar Noor. The top headlines include Somali President meets with U.S. Secretary of Defense at Pentagon as he visits United States. Somali Prime Minister has called on the local residents to fight against Al-Shabaab in the central Somalia. Somalia's special envoy for drought has expressed concern over the worsening humanitarian situation in Somalia. Kenya and Somalia have agreed to cooperate on the security, trade, and the fight against Al-Shabaab after President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud held fast talks with William Ruto, the newly elected president of Kenya. Somali military claims to have killed at least 18 militants during an operation in parts of the country. UN General Assembly is set to open in New York, and the Somali president will address the participants during his address. Welcome back to the news in detail. We begin with the trip of the Somali president to the United States of America. A high-level delegation led by President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud has arrived in Washington, D.C., where he is expected to attend the UN General Assembly set to open this week. U.S. Secretary of Defense Austin has invited the Somali president at the Pentagon to hold talks on the American engagement in Somalia. The meeting comes as U.S. President Joe Biden has increased the presence of the American troops in Somalia following the abrupt withdrawal of the U.S. forces by then U.S. President Donald Trump in late 2020. Biden has authorized the deployment of the approximately 500 troops to Somalia in mid-May, days after the President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud's re-election in the capital Mogadishu. U.S. said it will continue to support Somali military in the fight against Al-Shabaab and will resume the counter-terrorism operations against Al-Shabaab. Since announcing the U.S. military's return to Somalia, AFRICOM conducted airstrike that killed 5 Al-Shabaab members in June. Weeks later, another airstrike killed 2 suspected Al-Shabaab militants in southern Somalia in August. The U.S. conducted at least 5 airstrikes since that killed at least 17 Al-Shabaab fighters. According to the Camden Down report from Defense Department's African Center for Strategy Studies, a Pentagon research institution, Islamist militant extremism has increased by nearly 300% in Africa in the last decade. Al-Shabaab has one of the deadliest, most effective terror groups, accounting for estimated 36% of the militant Islamist group violence on the continent this year. The group has also been dubbed Africa's wealthiest terror organization, collecting an estimated 120 million through the extortion and other practices in 2020. Somalia's special envoy to the United Nations is sought Wednesday to draw the attention to the gravity of the crisis in his distant country in order to mobilize more aid. Millions of people are at risk of starvation across the Horn of Africa, which is in the grip of worst drought in 4 decades. After 4 failed rainy seasons for the past few years, that has whipped up livestock and crops in Somalia. We are here to lobby to bring your attention to the magnitude of this crisis, the level of humanitarian catastrophe in Somalia, said Abdurrahman Abdishakur Warsame. During the meeting with UN agencies and member states since the beginning of this week, Abdurrahman Abdishakur Warsame, who is in the US, has repeated that there is still a huge gap between the promised aid and Somalia's current financial needs. The UN said at the end of August it received 67% of its 1.5 billion US dollars aid target for Somalia, but with 50 consecutive rainy seasons forecast in the fall, the amount needed will increase. There is not enough humanitarian response. The famine will happen. Abdurrahman Abdishakur Warsame, the special envoy for the drought, has warned. The UN humanitarian chief Martin Griffiths, who visited Somalia last week, said Somalia is on the brink of famine for the second time in just over a decade. He said the situation was worse than the famine in 2021 when the 260,000 people have died, more than half of the children under the age of 6. We have a very narrow mandate. The Saif's life is Griffiths said when speaking along Abdurrahman Abdishakur Warsame at the UN headquarters in New York. People are dying today, and children. This fund has said the malnutrition has increased in Somalia as a result of the current drought in Somalia. Kenya and Somalia have agreed to cooperate on the security and trade after meeting between Somali President His Excellency Hassan Sheikh Mohamud and the newly elected Kenyan President William Ruto. Somalia and Kenya have agreed to cooperate on the security following talks between the leaders of the two neighboring countries in Nairobi. Kenyan President William Ruto has hosted his Somali counterpart Hassan Sheikh Mohamud at the State House in Nairobi on Wednesday. Ruto stated that they discussed the security situation in Kenya's eastern neighborhood. as well as the wider Horn of Africa region. Held discussions with Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud also included the security situation in Somalia and the Horn of Africa State House in Nairobi has tweeted. Somalia's president has also asked the Kenyan president to support the fight against Al-Shabaab in Somalia. Also present was Garissa Township Member of Parliament Aden Duale. President Mahmoud was among the various heads of state who chatted in the country for President Uru's inauguration ceremony held on Tuesday in Nairobi. Hassan Sheikh Mohamud said Kenya and Somalia will give priority to the importance of the diplomatic, economic, commercial, and social cooperation. Honored to have attended Ruto's inauguration in Nairobi today, Somalia and Kenya will continue to work closely together on development, regional peace, security, and other areas of mutual interest, said Somali President. Kenya has been a partner in Somali security matters, having sent over 3,500 Kenyan Defense Forces troops to the country to tackle Al-Shabaab threat. That's all for today's English News Live from Mogadishu. With me, I am Omar Noor and the entire team of the program. We leave you. Bye for now.